Welcome to the RomaPress podcast with John Solano and Andy Mattioli.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Roma Press Podcast. We hope you are doing very, very well. Before we get into everything for the season preview episode, a thank you to our newest patron over at Patreon, Alexander Davis. Thank you for your support, and also to all of our other wonderful patrons who support everything we do here. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you would like to join, patreon.com/RomaPress. We've made it, Andy. We have made it. The summer is slowly dwindling down, and we are now, 3-4 days, 72 hours, something like that, away from Roma kicking off the 2023-2024 season. We're going to get into all of that. Later on in the episode, we are going to have Matt Falcona from the Falcona Forecast to come on and give some brief insight into what his data modeling has to say about Serie A this season, what it has to say about Roma. So we will get into that after Andy and I go through what we believe is going to happen this season, again, in Serie A for Roma. Okay. We are going to do predictions, Andy, for this one. Now, 90% of the time we don't do it, but since we have the podcast now on YouTube, you are not really a YouTube channel unless you are giving something adjacent to a hot take. So, of course, we're going to have to do what we think will be the top four, the Scudetto champion, who will get those Champions League places, who we expect to win the league title. Where do we want to start? Do we want to start simply with Roma, or do we want to start with Serie A as a whole? Let's begin with Roma to make it easier. Obviously, this is a Roma podcast. So we have, for the most part, we expect them to, well, not expect them. They are definitely going to acquire one striker before the market closes, Andy. They welcomed, in these days, Paredes, Renato Sanchez. So we have the team at 95% construction. So we have a fairly good idea as to what the Roma of this season, or at least until January, is going to look like. So let's start with Roma, and then we will go to the broader outlook on Serie A. Let's begin with Roma, with baseline expectations for this season. What are they for you? And I mean that in the sense of, what are the objectives this season? Because for me, I think it is very simple. Top four e basta. That's it, yeah?
Oh, you're just top four? No competing for the Europa League final and for the Europa League trophy? You're not Team Dublin? You don't want to
Is that where it is this season?
Yeah, you don't want to go back and this time go to the land of Conan O'Brien and getting drunk on Guinness as Roma battle it out for another European trophy.
Once again, the pistolino to the back of my head. Where's the Europa League final going to be held? Just pull it, man. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't look that far ahead. Come on. No,
so you're just not on the European train. You're not on the bandwagon rolling down
not
the hill.
at the expense of top four. No, because
what about if my hot take is Roma exceed expectations, get top four, and go far in the Europa League campaign? What about that? Since we are on YouTube, and
I will get the tattoo of Jose Mourinho. Then
the expectation is to have a hot take. What if my hot take is Jose Mourinho's final year in the Italian capital? Because I think we all assume that right now this is going to be
I can't
Mourinho's
even entertain
final
that
year at Roma. He caps it off by helping the team qualify to the Champions League for the first time in 5 years, and at the same time he will lead them to another European final. And who knows if he doesn't complete the not really treble and lead us to Coppa Italia glory. You know, I just want to say that this this preseason for so many people feels so depressing. So many people have come on to here and have come to us and said something akin to, well, there is no hope for this season. This is going to get ugly. You have no Tammy Abraham. You have no reliable option next to Andrea Bellotti. Rui Patricios in goal. Everything's falling apart. Matic left Roma. What the hell's going on? And the thing about it is that maybe this is the time where it finally happens. Maybe
The
this is the time.
culmination.
Maybe this is the time where the expectations of fans don't match whatever it is that Roma are gonna do. So many times people were elated in preseason. People would lose their minds about our signings and the objectives, and there would be talk of this and talk of that. And now there's none of it. We won the Conference League 2 years ago, and sorry, last year, and and what was surprising about it was the expectations to do better or to do the
Mm.
same, but in the Europa League. Fortunately, it didn't happen. Now this time around, if you ask people, the expectations are minimal, and Roma have always done well when the pressure was not on. When the expectation was, oh, they're gonna suck, like in Rudy Garcia's first season, where it's just, oh, okay, well, whatever happens. They always did great. Whenever the expectation, oh, look at all these signings, look at how this team is built. They're perfectly built to handle all these competitions. They have exciting young talent. They have experienced veterans. They have this, they have that. At the end of the day, it would always crush us, right? We'd crash out of the Coppa Italia. We'd have a disappointing campaign in Europe. We'd fall behind in Serie A. I feel that maybe the fact that the energy in this preseason has been so low on the part of the general public, and the reception of all these signings, the idea, okay, well, look at them doing everything for free on loan, blah 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 blah. Maybe this will work to their advantage. I would like to believe that this will work to their advantage, and that Jose Mourinho's initial his first press conference, where he says, where do I see myself in 3 years? I see myself making people happy, surrounded by people who are cheering, who are
Mm.
celebrating. I want that to happen, and for that to happen, the team will have to qualify for Champions League football. So why not? At the end of the day, this season, think about it. There are so many great redemption arcs in the making. Like, why can't Andrea Bellotti go and have the season of his life? Why can't we dream of going back in time 5 years from now and saying, hey, remember that time where Andrea Bellotti just pulled that season out of his ass and carried us? Kind of like when you say, remember when Luca Toni won Capocannoniere at the age of 57 with
And
Hellas
then
Verona?
Roma bought Juani Turbe
Exactly.
after he did so.
You know what I'm like? That's like, why can't this be the season where Ola Solback and out of nowhere, boom, in the time of need, this guy who came in from Norway and struggled with injuries, why can't he become the guy? And why can't, for example, this be the season where Renato Sanchez all of a sudden is reborn and fit and strong and guarantees good minutes? And why can't this be the season where John and I come on here 9 months from now and are bowing our heads, trying to beg Paredes for forgiveness for comparing him to futsal players, and all of that stuff, all the people that are criticizing Rui Patricio, why can't this be the season where Rui Patricio goes on to win the Serie A Goalkeeper of the Year award? You
Mm.
know, like what I'm saying, like that. This is the fact that we are all. It all feels like everybody's preparing for a dumpster fire of a season where you're gonna be, struggling behind the likes of Bologna and Torino. Maybe that's a good sign after all. Maybe it is a good sign after all.
I am going to maintain, and I don't even know if this necessarily is in the corner of the word or it qualifies as hot take, but I have said for 2 to 3 months from the beginning of the season, ever since it was confirmed that Jose Mourinho would be coming back for season 3. I think that is such a huge advantage, Andy, that Roma have over the likes of who else? Napoli. I mean, Andy, Napoli. Can we just think about this? Because it is something that only Luciano Spalletti would do. You win the Scudetto, your first league title, and then you bail. You are gone. You are gone. And who does De Laurentiis put in his place? You mentioned him already, Rudy Garcia. I still can't believe that actually happened. That to me, that it seems like a fairy tale or a dream or something that I can't believe actually happened. You have Juve, who, yes, they still have Allegri. I do think they are going to have a very, very huge advantage, right? I don't know, Andy, what your top 4 is. We haven't revealed that before the episode. I think Juve playing once a week with
Yeah,
Allegri
yeah,
is.
yeah.
It reminds me of when Conte came, yeah? Remember that? How they ended that bad run that they had? You had, where they're finishing, I believe before Antonio Conte went to Juve, they finished 7th in the table, if I am not mistaken. And then they win the Scudetto. And they do so having to play once per week. I hate having to say it, but I actually think the Juve of the season, it does sort of have that air of it, sort of like the reset button for Juve. And them having to play once a week, no Conference League, is such a huge advantage. I do not want to underscore that enough. It is such a difference maker, in my opinion, between them and the rest who are going to have to battle for top 4. It is obviously impossible to quantify, Andy, but that is such a massive, massive, massive advantage. I think that could ultimately play the role of difference maker. You have that. Inter, Milan, they both undergo these really large squad overhauls. I think if you had to ask to the managers themselves or even some supporters, while yes, they did get in some good players, I always maintain when you already have a good squad, I think one of the worst things you could do is change simply for the sake of change. I think that perhaps I'm in the minority in this outlook on things, but I do think something is very important when it comes to consistency, both from a managerial and a player perspective. Having those usual names, building something, having a solid, consistent foundation season after season, I think is vitally important. We've talked about it previously. Man, Inter were in a Champions League final. What? It's the 17th of August. What is that? 3 months ago? 2 months ago? And how many guys did they lose from that 11? 3, 4, or even more than that? If they lost
You have
Onana,
Onana, you have Skriniar,
Skriniar,
well, who was on the
Broz,
margins. He hadn't trained in a long time.
Dzeko.
Brozovic, Lukaku, Dzeko. It's it's you are essentially, it's for me, it's actually difficult to talk about the rest of Serie A because it seems like nothing happened and a lot of things have happened, like
Mm,
to me, if you say who are the favorites, the
I
answers are
couldn't
very
tell you.
The
I don't
well,
know.
at the same time, but at the same time, the answers are very limited in Serie A. Like you have the usual suspects, Napoli, because they're the reigning champions, so by default you have to take them seriously. Milan, who go into it with the same manager, but with in more or less the same squad, with a different attacking department, with some exciting talents that you can tell they are going to fit in. I think the majority of them will fit in. They'll find Serie A pretty fun. Um, then you have Inter, who had this major overhaul and got some good players along the way. Marcus Thuram and um, and now now Marco Arnautovic, which is not really a great addition for 10 million, but the point is that in Serie A it's really limited. Like, you can't really count on a big surprise. Who is a big surprise this season? Bologna, maybe Bologna with Thiago Motta, if they can be consistent, if they can keep the same energy. I think maybe they're one of those smaller sides that can surprise, but at the same time, it's always Atalanta, it's always Lazio. You always have to watch out for the same teams. Um, I would say honestly that Lazio may as well be the surprise. But what is
Mm.
surprise in terms of Lazio? Lazio surprised everybody last season as well. They are in the Champions League. They did pretty well. They found consistency in their league performances. They dropped out of the European competition, and it worked to their advantage. So they may as well repeat it. Juventus it's a very strange situation because they underwent major changes in the team, in the top management. Up until a few weeks ago, you didn't know even if Vlahovic is going to be there or Lukaku will take his place. You don't know what version of Federico Chiesa you're going to get. What is Paul Pogba's status? He played the friendly yesterday and scored twice. So is he going to have an impact on Massimiliano Allegri's team, playing only once per week in Serie A? Who knows? Atalanta, they invested all of that money from Hoyland. They got Scamacca. They're getting
Still
other
have Bangsbo.
Bangsbo still there. Gasperini always in his comfort zone. It seemed like it was all over, and now he's going. He's been there forever, and he doesn't seem to want to let it go. And good for them. But it just, to me, it's Fiorentina. I don't know. Fiorentina, kind of like Roma, are always there where you really don't know if you can count on them. And that's why I say with Roma, I want to believe that this is going to be the season that we make it back to the Champions League. So when you say prediction, mine is not even as much of a prediction as a hope or an expectation of this team getting top four. I want this team getting top four, and I would like to believe that this whole situation right now, this uncertainty around the team, this almost depression uh, around the fact that, hey, we haven't replaced Tammy Abraham yet, and it's almost the end of the transfer window, and what the hell's going on, will turn into something very positive. I still maintain that teams like Napoli, Milan, Inter, Lazio, they're all ahead of Roma. Roma, in my opinion, is in terms of their development, their
You
project,
mean of quality of players, yeah?
their
Or do you
quality of.
mean to even manager?
I'm just saying quality. I'm saying quality of players, but also just the moment they're in. Like just the fact that when you reach your objectives, when you achieve top four year in year out, that is also building consistency. Teams like Roma, like Juventus, like Atalanta, that in recent years have had so many ups and downs and falling in and out of that top four zone, that doesn't impact their development positively. So that's why I'm saying I rank Napoli, Milan, Inter, and Lazio, because they're in there basically on the same level, and then you have that whole strata of Atalanta, Juve, and Roma. And then there is Fiorentina, and then maybe there is Bologna and whoever else. But basically, in my, like, this is how I envision the league. That's why for me, when we talk about Serie A, you can't even say, oh, this year is going to be a year full of surprises. I don't know. I still think that Napoli, despite losing Luciano Spalletti and despite having Rudi Garcia on the bench, are in a position to do well. They are in a position to do well. You play differently if you're reigning Serie A champion. Obviously, you need to know how to handle it, because, like we saw last year, Milan lost it. Milan felt so comfortable. They thought, oh, we're gonna, it's gonna be automatic, and it wasn't, and they got caught off guard by then. That it's only right for Napoli maybe to come into this league campaign and feel a bit too comfortable. Last season they won Serie A. What was it, in March? Basically, like they were on cruise control most of the way. So uh, Inter, that's another bizarre team. They got a Champions League final last season, despite really being in and out of it as well. Like for they lost so many away games.
They should have won the thing, man. They should have won. I thought they were better.
To me, it was unbelievable how uneven Inter were in the league. They had no reputation outside of San Siro. They were completely crumbling against even the smaller sides. They couldn't score. They had a whole attack. They had basically Roma's same problem, despite having perhaps even a more talented squad up front with Lautaro, with Dzeko, with Lukaku. But somehow they got Champions League final, and that has to impact them also positively in terms of going into this year. You know what? We got a Champions League final. That's not many teams can say that. But where are they in terms of the league standings right now? Are they ahead of Napoli? Are they ahead of Milan? I really doubt it. In my opinion, that's where Lazio come in. Lazio building consistent consistent results with Maurizio Sarri. But at the same time, with Lazio, it's always strange because there's always some kind of tension brewing inside of that dressing room. If it's not Luis Alberto, it's Sarri and Lotito. It's always something there. So you never know which Lazio you're gonna get. And that's where Roma have to come in. The Roma have to go into this season with that mindset of, we have nothing to lose. We have lost a Europa League final in a crushing manner, on penalties, with two center backs taking penalties and missing both of them. And we played our hearts out. We were undermanned. We lost our starting striker on the last day of the season. This is all we got. This is Mourinho's potentially last year in the capital. Whatever happens. We have to go all out. That's I want this to be the the season of duel at OK Corral with Roma. I want Roma to be really up there. Like gunslingers. Nothing to lose. You laid it all out. You're like Doc Holliday. Who's one step away from death, from venereal disease, played brilliantly by Val Kilmer in Tombstone. See, that's my movie reference for the people that keep asking me. And I just want that attitude to because there's so much speculation around this Roma this year. Like, oh, is Renato Sanchez fit? What the hell is this deal? Leandro Paredes, a return on a permanent deal. Paredes, like, what? He's going to have Daniele De Rossi's number, which, mind you, this is a small side on. I think is a brilliant move on the part of Daniele De Rossi. If to not many people are willing in this city to play around with those numbers. Like, those numbers are sacred, and he just went out of his way to prove that it's just a number. get real, get over it.
Yes,
And
when
I
people
love
talk
that.
of that, like they did with Totti, the number 10, man. And I think this is what he said too. People should be able to dream of to wear this shirt. Why should they
Yeah,
retire
why
it?
should you take it away from them? That's exactly right. And I thought that was a brilliant move by Daniele De Rossi. But nothing is sacred. It's a game. Enjoy it, right? So but again, there is some, oh my god, Rui Patricio going into his third season at Roma. We've seen the worst of Rui Patricio last season. How much worse can he get this year, right? And it seems like everything is just the one big question mark around this Roma. There is no enthusiasm. There is no crowds going insane at the prospect of having a 20-year-old Brazilian kid, Marcus Leonardo, come in on the last day of the transfer. There's no crowds losing their minds at the prospect of maybe having Duvan Zapata lead the attack. No, not this year. This year, that whole thing is gone. Obviously, the stadium is gonna be full. But it's different now, right? You have Mourinho, who's suspended for 4 games in Europe, 2 games in Serie A. You have Dybala, Pellegrini suspended for the first match day of the season with Salernitana. So it seems like everything is going against Roma. And honestly, when that happens, I like my odds with Roma very, very much.
100%. Before we get into predictions, I think we are both in agreement on this, but I suppose I shouldn't assume. And again, I am simply referring to the paper. On paper, though, this Roma is better than the one of last season. Yeah, that's what you believe, because I do.
Really? Oh,
No, no,
I don't.
I am saying just on paper, because let's go down the list. So they acquired Paredes, Renato Sanchez, Indica, Awar, and Christensen on loan. And who did they lose? Ibanez, a bunch of other guys that really did not play a part. Cliver, not Tahirovic did play a small part. Volpato as well. And then
Missouri and
Misori.
Nemanja Matic
Correct. So really, if we are talking guys of consequence, Matic, Ibanez out. They leave. And in their places, you welcome the 5 that I have already mentioned. And by the way, five guys, all of whom you can realistically, Andy, expect to play a large part to the team. When was the last time we can say that of a transfer market of Roma, where every single guy that they acquire, you expect them to contribute from the very first day? This is not something, we all hate the word project. Yeah, everybody hates hearing that. This is not somebody that, or these are not guys that you have to cultivate, that you have to give some time to grow. No, these are guys who have played at the highest of levels. A, B, they are also all under 30 years of age. Paredes being the oldest at 29. So for me, I know that the transfer market of Roma for many has been underwhelming, not enough. We still need the striker, as you said. For me, though, given the restrictions of financial fair play, and I think we both were in agreement on this in the last episode, Thiago Pinto could not have done any more, correct? Yeah, we at least agree in that aspect. I'm fairly certain I could say that without even asking you. I'm
Yeah,
nearly
it's
100% sure you
I
agree.
thought with the I honestly, we are gonna get into it once the transfer window comes to an end. But yeah, it's to go into to face these circumstances. There is a very limited range of options out there when you're dealing with Roma's finances, and to be honest, I don't think when people love to talk about scouts or experience, or, oh, you need a pure sporting director in this case, and he's a general manager, he doesn't know what he's doing. I really doubt that anybody in this situation would be able to do much better than that in terms of eyeing talent, getting the cheaper quality options on the market. That's all Thiago Pinto and Mourinho's merit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So the ones, and I do understand that are saying this as being in terms of incoming operations a disaster. I think that again, with the limitations they have in place, I don't know how Roma could have done much better. So again, running just quickly down the incoming, outgoing operations, though, on paper, I think they are better. I do. Indica, I've said it numerous times. I'm just going to repeat myself for a 100th time. If they did not acquire this guy on a free transfer, I can tell you with 1000% certainty, he is a guy you pay at least 30 million euros for, no questions asked. It's a brilliant operation, in my opinion. Awar, a guy who has seen his star perhaps dim a little bit, perhaps going a bit stale, I think might be the word, in the last season at Lyon. I think this is a chance for him, sort of a rebirth to get him for free. Brilliant operation, in my opinion. And then Paredes, I am not going to hide, I have been critical of him in the past, especially, and I sent this in our patron group chat, man, if you struggle as a midfielder in a Luciano Spalletti system, oof. But to get him at the fee that they did, it's a brilliant operation. Leonardo Sanchez, brilliant operation. So, because they have been limited by UEFA, I don't know realistically what more we could have asked for. They are still trying to get Marcos Leonardo. Now, as of last night, Roma were very pessimistic when we asked to them about it. They do not think that it is going to happen. They aren't going to give up in pursuing him. However, I find it to be difficult that he arrives, but let's see. Let's see what happens. So, before we get into predictions, Andy, then, on paper, and again, paper. This is before any matches are being played. So, I suppose you can't make fun of us, but we are doing this without any benefit of hindsight. Do you think this Roma, on paper, the quality, the names, is better than the one of last season? Because I do. We talk of depth. This is something that, when it comes to Roma, for season after season after season, and we heard it from Jose Mourinho a lot last season. You spoke earlier of, can they handle this competition in addition to that competition? I can say this is probably the first time they have something even resembling depth. I am not even necessarily saying it is 100% good depth, but they have something that at least has the appearance of depth, particularly in the midfield. Again, could me saying this come back to backfire with all in my face? Of
Oh, for
course, but
sure, for
I am saying it
sure.
right now. I think it looks good.
I can already see, the YouTube cutaway clips of us making these predictions, and then in March or April, getting all of this
Yeah, I
thrown
mean, there's
back.
going to be video of me crying in the corner in the fetal position.
Yes, yes,
Let's get
yes,
past that.
yes. It's this. I don't know what a good Roma squad is. It's I've seen it all. I've heard it all, and I'm confused. I'm confused as hell. I know that I'm looking right now at an incomplete squad because there's still that striker position missing. There's still that one or two attackers missing up front to help lead the line. You really need to pray that Belotti learns to do the heavy lifting again after carrying Torino for so many years. This, if he goes into
That's why
this,
he did bad last season, by the way. He was so stunned that he had something resembling competency behind him.
it's true. I mean, I guess to a point, and I really would like to believe that this is his year. He deserves it, and also it's not like this guy all of a sudden forgot to score goals. This is a guy who's grown up in this league. This is his bread and butter. It's supposed to be. So this team also needs to be confident enough to rely on him. Like it needs to give him that like last season, Roma did what Juventus weren't able to do with Dybala in his final 2 years with the Bianconeri, which was, okay, you are the star of the show here. Have the ball, do something with it. And Dybala embraced it. I need to see to a different degree, obviously, because it's a different position, different player that we're talking about, different quality, different skill set. But I need to see that same attitude with Belotti, as in, listen, you've had a really bad year, but we know that you can put that ball into the back of the net. We know that. We've seen you do it time and time again with the Granata. We know what you're capable of in this league. And because Belotti, I think it can be that guy, especially in the Mourinho team, with the way he works his ass off, with the confidence that Mourinho instilled in him, despite the poor season that he had. This has to be that year. Like the Tammy Abraham injury, in all its misery, because of how it happened, when it happened, can be a blessing for Belotti. Like this can be the one time it really works out for him. Kind of like when Dzeko stopped playing with Borja Mayoral. All of a sudden Borja Mayoral was living his best life. Oh wow, I get to have this shot at it. And Belotti should have that same mentality of, oh, okay, I'm needed now. Like I'm the number one guy up front. I need to be. There is no, because who are we going to rely on? Dybala again, time and time again. Like Dybala is amazing, but he's not a striker. I need to take care of the ball. I need to put it into the back of the net. I'm the one they called for this job. And once Belotti starts doing that, I think we can look at this season with a little bit more confidence, with a little bit of more of a relief, because, as you said, midfield is good. The defense was one of our, probably the best aspect of this team for the past 2 years, in how consistent it was, in just the personality, the mentality of the whole team. Obviously, that also contributed to that defensive solidity. The attack is a big question mark, but at the same time, I think that's where good things can happen. Again, why can't an Ola Solbakken turn into the season wonder? Why can't this guy out of nowhere start scoring goals left and right? Why can't Andrea Belotti all of a sudden wake up from his slumber and get back to that scoring groove that he was on with Torino for so many years?
Sure. Yeah, why not? All right. Well, then let's do, before we bring on Matt Falcone, then let's get into the hot take time. Then let's do the predictions. Let's do Serie A. Let's do it from a league perspective, and then we can go to Europa League. What is your top 4 for this season? Or you can do top 7,
right.
top 10. I don't know. I don't know how far you want to take it. You can do the entire table. Who do you want to go down? Just tell me what I have to do to get Hellas Verona sent down and into administration. What do I do?
I know. That is the question. That is the question that we're all wondering. Let's see. Top 4 for me has to be, and I will say it.
You can keep wasting time. I'll let you think. I'll go first then.
Okay.
Or do you want to go first? No,
I will say let me go.
Go,
I'm gonna say Milan first, Napoli second, Inter third, Roma fourth.
Oh, okay. So this just goes to show, really, how is open the word we want to use. I don't know, but how unpredictable. Because the thing is, Andy, I haven't seen anybody. If Luciano Spalletti was still at Napoli, I would assume 90% of people would be saying, okay, Napoli, they will retain their title.
Yeah. And that would make sense. Totally, yeah.
Yes. But Rudi Garcia just, I don't know, he smudges. He smudges the painting and outlook.
I mean, he's not he hasn't won. That's all, that's my only thing against him, is that he hasn't won. which is also true
for a
for
long
Luciano
time. I mean,
Spalletti.
when did he
It's
win
also
in France? That was 12 years ago, 13 years ago.
it's also true that Luciano Spalletti hadn't won the Scudetto, but Luciano Spalletti was always that guy that was so close to it that at some point in time he had to take advantage of other teams not fulfilling their potential, and that's what happened last season. I mean, it was a catastrophe. Napoli won
That
super
is how
comfortably,
many of us find wives too.
and
So
that's exactly, and that's why I say that, in my opinion, a team like Milan that tasted success with Pioli, with that whole squad, can go back to it. Can go back to doing that. With Napoli, it will be different. I think they are going to take a step back. Inter, it's just because of the sheer quality that they have. Despite everything, they still have a lot of quality there. And despite everything, despite Simone Inzaghi not being him, in my opinion, that is a team that in Italy will always prevail in those top four rankings at the end of the day. And then Roma, because as I said before, I want this to be the surprise. I want them to be the surprise. I want this team to really take everybody by surprise in the year that seems like everybody's writing them off just because it's you're facing those financial fair play restrictions and Mourinho's final year. No, he never lasts so long. He always gets into fights. The ownership, blah 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 blah. All that talk. I want it to be the main thing that drives them this season, and that's why that's my top four. And then obviously it's Lazio and Juve and Atalanta. But beside that, that is my top four.
okay, well, for mine. I went Inter, Napoli, Juve, Roma, Milan, Lazio, Fiorentina, Atalanta. That is what? 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah,
7, 8. Top 8.
yeah, top eight.
And that just goes to show you there is no consensus. There is no clear winner. And that is what makes Serie A this season very enticing. And to be clear, I think that is something that works in the favor of Roma because each of these teams has something that has changed, whether it be an overhaul of the team, whether it be manager, whether it be uh, uh, losing somebody like Lazio, losing Milinkovic Savic. I think somebody like that is very difficult to replace. All of them have lost very big pieces, whereas Roma, for the most part, Matic, yes, Ibanez, but I don't think they factor into the level that some of these others have lost. So this is exciting, at least from Roma's standpoint. You are coming into this thing with the base of everything in place. You are coming in with the same manager. You are coming in with the same pieces that have been here for the entire time of Jose Mourinho. So you are working with a very big advantage. As you said, I want to see them grab this thing, finish top four, and then for me, Europa League. I really have no expectations, because I am so fixated on top four. That is all I care about. Of course, I'm not going to whine, moan, and complain if Roma make it all the way to the Europa League semi-final, final. Who knows? But my primary concern is Serie A and top four. And I assume that is somewhat of the same mentality as you, yeah?
It has to be top four. It's at this. It's like an obsession. It's something we're chasing. It's the holy grail. It's right there in front of us, right? It's attainable. It's attainable, and for the past few years, it's always been the case of almost there, almost there, almost there. It's gone, and I'm tired of it because I'm almost indifferent to our plight, to our mission. Whenever I see this team get into a position to succeed in terms of top four and then squander it, it's almost like, okay, what else is new? And that's very dangerous. A team like Roma, in the situation they're in, financial and also sporting wise, and also for the new stadium and everything, they need Champions League football. They need it. desperately, with the players they have, with the manager. It'd be a dream conclusion to Mourinho's stay in Rome, because it would really mean that I came, I saw, and I conquered. I did everything that the people before me failed to do. I got this team their first European trophy. I got them to a Europa League final, and I got them to qualify for Champions League football for the first time in 5 to 6 years. And that honestly has to be printed and plastered all over Roma's training facilities. This top four obsession. It has to be an obsession for everybody inside and outside of this club.
Perfect way to put it. Okay, we will end it there. Let me quickly bring on the Mount Falcone for the Falcone forecast for an outlook on Serie A from a data slash a sports betting standpoint. And then Andy and myself, we will be back after the first match of the season this weekend. So let me bring on Matt very quickly to go over the Falcone forecast for the upcoming season in Serie A. Matt Falcone from the Falcone forecast. Matt, first off, welcome back. Secondly, I'm not even going to pretend I understand like the data analytics that go into these equations that you pull out for all of these insights into Roma Serie A. So just know you can find all of this on Twitter at Falcone Forecast, and that is where they can get all of your work and the insight into all of this wonderful data that you have come up with. I did have a chance to look at what the forecast said of Roma, where they will finish. We can depress everybody with that in a moment. But from strictly a Roma standpoint, from the forecast, the data, whatever, are they better than last season? Because Andy and myself, I just went on for 20 to 30 minutes as to why they are better than last season. But does the data say that?
It does. Well, first of all, thanks for bringing it back on. This past year, I've like the forecast has taken a bit of a back seat for me in my life, but I love doing it, and I'm so excited to be doing a lot of development work, especially this summer and heading into the season. I kind of dropped the ball and I didn't get it all done ahead of time before the season started, but we're here.
Well, it's in time for match day one to piss everybody off listening to this.
Well, I think I'm going to make people happy because at the time I put that blog out on the Falcone Forecast blog, we had not added Christensen, we had not added Evan Ndika, and we hadn't gotten rid of Roger Ibanez, and Matic obviously didn't leave as well. So that analysis was based on each player's points per match over what the team's points per match was, right? So basically, like kind of a measure of their value when they were on the pitch versus when they're off the pitch. So Roger, I know Andy has defended him on the pod. People defend it. Like people are fans of Roger Ibanez, but the data does not agree whatsoever.
Oof.
Negative 0.21 in terms of the points per match in which Roger Ibanez is on the field versus when he's not. That's really, really bad. That's one of the worst in Serie A. Right? So Evan Ndika playing the same position. They have pretty much, it's all else equal. They have the same percentage of their team's minutes, about the same number of defensive actions per game. His points per match over his team's average, which was Frankfurt last year in the Bundesliga, was a positive 0.13. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to magically gain 0.34 points per match, but that's what the data is telling me. So basically, since that happened, since I put the blog out, we've actually increased my projection in terms of where we're going to finish. So I have us projected now at third, like right behind Inter Milan. So
okay. Yeah, so you are not going to piss everybody off.
No. I know people in the chat love donkey on me like, oh, here we go. Falcone is projecting Roma to finish sixth again, but no. I've adjusted the data with with my man Thiago Pinto. I mean, how much more can we say about this guy, John? Hands behind his back, pulls a couple of rabbits out of his hat. With Sanchez and Paredes and Ndika. So I think the team's looking up, and we've spent like no money. So
Yeah, well, listen, I couldn't agree more. I quite literally, just before you came on here, I said that Thiago Pinto, there is nothing more he could have done this summer given the limitations of financial fair play.
Maybe sign a striker.
Well, that is going to happen. That is going to happen. But I mean, given the limitations, I mean, look at compare the transfer market of Juve to Roma. I think there is absolutely no comparison in terms of quality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I said Roma, and Andy predicted this too, that they would finish fourth, so top four.
Okay.
Well, what do you have for the rest of Serie A, though? Because I saw, and I believe you just said Inter finished third.
Yep.
Napoli, does the data have them retaining their title? Because for me, there is no mathematical equation that can account for Rudi Garcia, because you just don't know what you are going to get from this guy.
No, you're 100% right. And the data doesn't really have Kim Min-jae as like a massive loss in terms of points per match. Now, of course, he played nearly all of those matches, so there's not really much of a counterbalance against when he was off the pitch. But at this point, you kind of have to trust Napoli's recruitment. I mean, they get Kvaratskhelia and Kim Min-jae himself from relatively nowhere, and they slot in and they're just as effective as or even better than the people they replaced. But obviously there's no number that can adjust for losing Luciano Spalletti, who I think is probably for my money the best coach in Italy. So do I think that, like, I can't predict that something that hasn't happened in 30 years is going to happen 2 years in a row. Right. So I think just my gambling brain is like, there's no way I can put my money on Napoli to win the league at like 2-1 or 3-1. Right. I'm sure you kind of feel the same way.
Yeah. My sense is this Serie A is the most open and unpredictable that we have seen in some time. For me, I like Roma's chances. And again, I believe you can't put this into a mathematical equation and get some sort of objective standard of it. But having the same manager for the third season in a row, I mean, just that in and of itself is something that rarely happens at Roma to begin with. Roma, as you just said, they did, in my opinion, Ibanez, I've made my opinions clear, very hot and cold player. What about Matic, though? What does it say in terms of his departure? Because he did play a large part, but I guess from a data standpoint, what does it say? What did they lose with him?
So points per match over the team's points per match last year, Matic had a positive 0.03, so we lose a little bit there. But I think with the additions of Leandro Paredes, who I'm very excited about. I know you're not.
Listen, at under 4 million euros, I'm excited about anybody who has even anything resembling quality.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an incredible operation.
Body, like a warm body for 4.5 million euros is pretty good. And then obviously Renato Sanchez as well. I think what we gained from this is ball progression, right? So I think something that I believe you guys touched on it, and I think, like, you guys very astutely pointed out that Paredes and Sanchez, okay, maybe they're not everyone's cup of tea, but they bring something to the table that we didn't have before, right? So I want to throw some stats out there for you that I think will be a little depressing for last year, but really hopeful for this year. So last year we were 74th in progressive passing in Europe's top 5 leagues. That's not good. Okay, just 32 progressive passes over 90. So that's basically moving the ball from defense to attack and then further down towards the opponent's goal. Like, if you watch the team, like, it seems like we had a block of 5, like we had Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez, Matic, Cristante, and then another block of 5 with Dybala, Pellegrini, Abraham, etc. Right? And there was no connectivity between the two. So I think with Paredes and Sanchez coming in, Paredes is excellent at ball progression. He has, let's see, I wrote it down somewhere. Maybe I didn't. But basically, Leandro Paredes has excellent ball progression skills. Renato Sanchez has excellent ball carrying skills. So I think those guys, depending on if they pair with Cristante, pair with Bove, whoever, they're going to help the team out, get the ball from defense to attack, and get it to the players that we want it to. Like, get it to Dybala and Pellegrini a lot better. So hopefully it helps our attackers as well.
Yeah, that is actually, and I said this in the Patreon chat yesterday, one of the things I'm looking forward to is I don't think Paredes is going to be asked to do anything resembling that he had to do with Allegri, which tends to be the case with most players that have even the modicum of attacking ability within their veins. What worries me, obviously, and I'm sure most feel this way when you lose Matic, is the physicality portion of it. They don't have anybody resembling his profile in terms of physicality. My assumption is that Cristante is going to be the one to pick up the burden of the defensive duties for him. But just to end this, though, because we spoke of strikers and how Roma did with the incoming, what does it say, the forecast? Who is going to win, though, the Serie A?
So to win Serie A, I still have Napoli there. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I think there's no way to put a number on Luciano Spalletti leaving. Inter is right there at second place, I think, building on the momentum from getting to the Champions League final. But I want to throw another name in there, and that's AC Milan. So Milan, obviously, it was catastrophic losing Tonali for a huge number to Newcastle, but they've basically built an entirely new team with them. And
I hate the dollar. I steal something right now from Bill Simmons. He always says the dollar for 4 quarters analogy. I feel that is kind of what they did, and I'm never a fan of that.
Okay, no, that's
like
totally
what
fair.
Spurs did with Bale. I don't like that.
Yeah, okay, that's a good comparison. And it remains to be seen, whether that's going to work out. But I think just in general, like, you're replacing Alexis Salamakers and Junior Messias with Christian Pulisic, and there's the right winger they brought in from Spain. His name's escaping me at the moment, but you can't tell me that's not a big upgrade. I think just in general they've increased their depth, which will help them compete over the full season, and they also have a distant third. Or actually fourth highest odds to win the league at like plus 600. It's like 6-1. So betting value wise, I like Milan to win the league just as a bet to see, like, if all these new players, like you said, if the 4 quarters can gel and turn into more than $1, turn into $2, let's say, to continue the metaphor. I think betting value wise, like, that's where I'd be putting my money if I was betting on the league winner.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone, they can find, for any complaints, you can forward them to Falcone Forecast. Pleasantly surprised. So it has Roma finishing in the top 4. Nobody is going to complain of that. I think nearly everybody agrees this season it is top 4, and that's it. Forget everything else. Top 4, top 4, top 4. Okay. Where else can they find you? At Falcone Forecast. What else am I missing? Or is that find you on Twitter?
Yeah. Find me on Twitter for sure. Definitely want to help grow the account this year. So, retweets and telling your friends, telling your grandma, whoever is going to be helpful to help grow that. So I'm there. The link to the blog is there. I'm also posting some more data visualization stuff on Tableau Public. And like I mentioned earlier, I have some more developments coming in. So just stay tuned on the Twitter. It's going to be on there. So I'm super excited about it all. I'm super proud of the work I'm doing so far. So hopefully you guys enjoy it, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Matt. Thanks so much again. At Falcone Forecast. We will be back next week after Roma face Salernitana at the weekend. Hopefully they begin with 3 points. Let's see what happens. Until next time, everyone. Ciao.